a lot of people say, oh, my app has to have this to be successful. And then it's like, that's actually just a nice to have. Like if you built this app without this, like push notifications, for instance, if you built an app without push notifications and it failed, would you say the app failed because it didn't have push notifications? And the answer is probably no. It's probably that the idea just wasn't good to begin with. The pricing wasn't good. The distribution wasn't good.
Hey everybody, welcome again to another episode of the LowCode Podcast. Today we have Erik Goins with us. He runs a studio, a no-code or low-code development studio called Flywheel. Erik, thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So why don't you start by telling us how you came up with Flywheel? How did it start? How did you find no-code and low-code and start making apps? Because I think just like in my case, you don't come from a technical background. So you found... So tell us about how did you find low-code and no-code and how did you end up building this business?
Yeah, absolutely. I have kind of a roundabout way to do this because it was quite unintentional, and I do try and point that out to people. But my background is consulting. I was a consultant for Big Four in the US, and then I moved over to Asia, and I was in consulting there. And then just over 2 years ago, or almost 2 years ago now, I actually resigned from my job as a full-time consultant there, and I was going to take a travel sabbatical between resigning and actually leaving. The entire EU shut down, which was my destination, due to COVID-19, which we all kind of thought was like going to come and go. I mean, you remember like the optimistic times that spring 2 years ago when it was like, oh, this will be gone in like 3 months. It's supposed to be gone by summer type thing. So I started messing around on my own projects, and I am very much like a tinkerer at heart and kind of like the old classic hacker of like, I just want to build things. So I just ended up building a studio where we were building mobile apps. We got listed on Adalo. We were building on everything. I mean, we had like in the early days, the business was automate intelligently because that's kind of what I was doing in consulting. I was automating processes for people. So we were thinking, okay, why don't we just go into businesses and just apply any tool to the job, whatever works. Like they probably need Airtable along with Glide apps. Maybe they need an external app with Adalo. Maybe they need like a website with Webflow. And we were just like, we'll just use anything and we don't even care.
Right. Tech agnostic.
And that was actually one of our big selling points when I was in consulting was that the first company I worked for was a Big Four consulting company. They've got loads of tech partnerships, and you can go see those like on their website. And anytime you go to a big enterprise tech company's website, you can see who their preferred partners are. The second consulting company I worked with was smaller, and they didn't have any of those like really cool partnerships. So what they did instead was they said, oh, we're tech agnostic. So we won't sell you just because like somebody's a partner and they're going to give us a kickback. We use the best tool for the job, which is kind of just because like we didn't even have the partnerships to begin with. But we did make sure
you were coming up with a solution and also implementing the solution with software.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. In both cases, in the Big Four company and then the smaller company.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was kind of, I've gotten a bunch of tweets about like agency life really recently. So it's just pure coincidence that, we're doing this at the exact same time. But one of the big caveats I tell people about, our success as a firm is that I've been doing low code for like 6 years now. We were doing BPM and RPA software in the US and in Hong Kong. So I'm not a developer. I can't code. I can't write JavaScript or, SQL or, React Native or anything else. But I was already familiar with a lot of drag and drop tools for automation. And that's where I got into kind of Adalo and even Glide apps when we used to do Glide apps too. And we were so early stages on Adalo though that like I had one personal app I had made and they let us get listed as an expert. It was in fairness, it was a pretty decent app, but it was just like a fitness app. It had
Okay.
180
Did you build that app for
workouts.
yourself?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Wasn't that originally a Glide app, and then you built that in Adalo, or am I confused?
It went back and forth. I don't know where the first one
Okay.
was, but we definitely built it in both. You're right. So it
Right.
was in Glide apps. I think that the first place we built it was Adalo. And then
Okay.
we hit some limitations with like old Adalo. They didn't have like a good way for users to track workouts that had been completed. And so
Okay.
we were just kind of like showing you every workout and then you had to track it yourself. We built that again under a different name in Glide apps. And then Adalo released a new feature and we went and rebuilt it in Adalo.
Yeah.
It never came
Okay.
anything of it. There's a couple hundred users. It's a free app out there. But that's literally how we started an agency. And then since then, we've just been getting leads from Adalo and building through that.
So your first client came from Adalo?
Yes. I would say, I mean, our first client that we ever worked with, we did a bunch of work for free for like friends. And it was like building out our portfolio, and maybe we charged, but it was like so little you couldn't even call it like really charging a fee.
Right.
All of our real clients all came from Adalo, all because we were listed on that expert page. And we probably have gotten, every year we probably get 100 to 200 leads from Adalo on that page.
Wow. That's massive. Yep. I mean, just for context, for whoever's listening that doesn't know what Adalo is, just like at LowCode, we mostly build apps using Glide apps, which is this tool that allows you to build visual development style apps. Adalo is, I would say, very similar. What do you think are the main differences between Adalo and Glide?
Glide apps, the back end is way better. Like I have to start with that because like I'm insanely jealous of the back end that they use and that you have like formulas and so many different field types. I think that really helps a lot of people because Adalo is a simple CRUD database, which for anyone who's doesn't know what that is, it's CRUD, which means create, read, update, delete, which is kind of what any simple database is, versus Glide apps that built in more functionality to make it a little bit more like an Airtable or something. So you have like some built-in logic into the database. Adalo is drag and drop. It's like building a PowerPoint. And then you can add native app functionality to that, and you can put your app in the App Store. That's really where I think the biggest differences are is in the back end, Adalo is straight CRUD. And if you need to build in some logic, then you might need an external system. It's drag and drop, so it's kind of fully customizable, but that comes with a few limitations, I guess, or issues. And then you can put a native app in the App Store. So you can build iOS and Android.
A lot of people, at least in my experience, are looking for a native app. And in my experience, that's not always a good idea, right? Because it's hard to scale, it's hard to get users. And sometimes it's even better to try to sell your app or your idea to a business rather than go the consumer route and try to get hundreds of thousands of users. Since Adalo apps can be published in the App Store, do you find, let's say, a lot of unqualified clients or customers like come up with an idea because they want their app in the App Store? It can be built in Adalo. They get the app, and then nothing happens because they don't scale. Is that the norm with Adalo apps?
It is way too much the norm, and probably like all of no code. I would say like if you were to aggregate all of our requests by type, the number one request we get is probably for Uber Eats or like it's the number one is like some delivery app. And it's like, it doesn't matter whether you're in the App Store or not. It doesn't matter whether you're using code or not. The fact of the matter is that every delivery service out there has a marketing budget of $1 billion a year.
Yes.
And,
Yeah.
they're not making money for 6 years. Like, you as a no code maker can't do that. You cannot compete. So that's 100%. Like, building an app is not building a business. An app is technology,
Correct.
which is a tool that a business uses, but it's so much more than that a lot of people don't give it respect.
In that case, do you prefer working with established businesses, building apps for them, or are you still doing like consumer-facing apps?
We naturally work with a lot more businesses because we charge really high rates. And so for
Okay.
most people who want something like, hey, I'm building the next Uber Eats, they're probably not coming in with a budget that really can build that we can work with them on, just because of
Okay.
kind of the way that we build apps and the way that we work. So we have like a natural
Do you
filter
have
there.
that high price in order to not get these types of clients? Is it a way of qualifying leads?
Yeah, it kind of is a way of qualifying leads, but it's also kind of just something that we've made a decision on internally. Like,
Okay.
when you're building apps, for us, like, we could make a very bare bone app for $1,000. We could do it if we really wanted to. At our bill rate. I mean, we can build a full app in 5 hours.
Okay.
And we can help you list in the App Store. It's not going to look good, though, and it's not going to have most of the functionality that, like, you would probably expect. Like, it's not going to have all the functionality that a full app would have. It would function, and it would be an MVP, and you could validate it. But it's not going to have like every single thing a user needs to manage their account, etc. So we don't really build apps like that anymore.
Okay.
So we're not really like building bare bones MVPs. And so
Okay.
we kind of, like, when people come to us with a budget of $1,000, then we're like, look, we're not really the best firm, because we build like full service solutions now. And we spend a lot of time and effort on design, because
Okay.
we want to show off good designs to continue to get better projects in the future.
Yeah.
So, there's kind of like a lesson that we've learned there, that like you can take a bunch of $1,000 projects and deliver those all day. They just don't look good, and they don't help you really build a business.
That is correct.
And then people are going to look at all your projects, and they're all going to look bad. They're all going to have failed. And then they're going to say, do I want to work with this person that's delivered 100 projects that have all failed, versus this guy that has like 5 projects, but they have like good reviews on the App Store. They're real businesses.
Right.
The apps look really nice. It's just kind of a blend between those.
And you're still building in a tech agnostic way. So you're not only building in Adalo anymore, but using a bunch of different tools like Bubble and whatever other tools to build apps as well.
Yeah, we're migrating. This is the second thing that's kind of like really impacted our business, is as we've started charging more and trying to build more like full service applications, we've actually started moving away from Adalo, because like if you charge $200 an hour, you get clients who have $200 an hour problems. Like, if somebody had an easy problem, they would pay somebody $10 an hour to fix it. And there's nothing wrong with that. But we don't get easy apps anymore, which kind of sucks, to be honest. Like, it really takes the fun out of building. Like, we used to be able to just be like, oh, we're going to build, it's going to be easy, all these simple things. And you just sit down and like just jam for like a day, and you could be like 80% of the way through an app, and it felt great because you were just moving so fast. Now we have clients that are asking for things that are just so complicated that when you're doing it, it's like tons of like tech and testing, and you're in Postman all day trying out API calls and stuff like that. So we've hit a lot of the upper limits of Adalo for certain functionality. And so then we've started moving to Flutterflow and DraftBit, where we're not so contained, and we can use different backend services like Firebase and Supabase. And that's kind of where, I mean, we're always tech agnostic, but we really, really liked Adalo. But now a lot of our clients have expectations that when you're trying to deliver it on Adalo, it feels like you're walking into a wall every time you turn around because there's just some functionality that isn't there.
So, however, you're still building products for yourself. So you're not only now working as an agency, but building like apps or software, like, I don't know, software as a service maybe, or apps that you want to put in the app store.
Yeah.
Are you using Adalo for those projects or not even there?
Yeah. The big one we've been working on for like the last year and a half, to be honest, it's called Time, and it's like the Mint app for real estate investors. Okay. So it helps you calculate your real estate returns by just like connecting your bank account. To do that, we're using Plaid. And I think, to be honest, like we're probably one of the first ones to really try and use Plaid in the no-code world. And it's been an absolute nightmare. It has been like the hardest thing that we have technically ever done as an agency. But I'm a real estate investor. It's something that I'm passionate about, and it's a product that we know and want as an investor. So, we're really happy to take the time and the energy and the money to invest in that. But we started on Adalo. We tried to build a custom component for Adalo. It never worked. We went to DraftBit, and there's a limitation with the code for how we couldn't use it in DraftBit, basically. And now we're doing it on Flutterflow. So we've kind of gone like all the way around the world here, trying to get this one thing done, because like you want to be able to connect bank accounts to this, otherwise it's just silly. But we as an age, when we started, we do believe that we're a studio ourselves. So we have always tried to build our own products alongside our clients.
So in our case, as an agency as well, we build projects for clients. And then, as you said earlier, some might scale, most don't. So most projects, at least consumer facing, end up dying. In this case, you're building a project, let's say for yourself, right? You know the market, you know the industry, you want to solve a pain that you have. How do you plan to grow? Because something that comes up a lot with our clients is that they have an idea that they've probably had it for years, right?
Yeah.
Then they either find us or they find NoCode or LowCode or Glide or Adalo, whatever. They end up with us. We build them the app, the MVP. Then they have the app, their dream come true. Now they have to scale. They have to get users. They have to get a subscription. They have to sell it to a company to white label the app. They have to move on to the next step. Like tech is no longer the limitation. Now let's call it sales, right? Or user acquisition. And that's something very challenging for everybody, because you solve the tech, but then selling is a completely different thing. How do you tackle that? It's not a problem though. But how do you tackle that next step?
Yeah, I think well, first off, it's always going to be case by case, but I'll talk about Time, because that's like the easy one for us. Is we know that there's a good market out there, because we are actually doing something that's pretty similar to another software. We have a different angle for how we're doing it that we think is better, and it's kind of more comprehensive. But we know that this company, they were just acquired, probably for mid tens of millions of dollars. They have 50,000 users. We know that there's a validated market for this. And we use that software, and we know the limitations, and we know that we're bringing something better to market for it.
Okay.
The second thing is, we have talked to, even without a product, we have talked to dozens of people, and they have all said like, yeah, we would be really keen to try that, and we would be interested. Okay. Like, when is it available? We have people waiting to get into our beta, even before there was a product. So we validated that like pretty early. For most people, like, I really do think that you should try and have your first sale before you even get a product. And you should have people kind of like begging and clamoring, to use it. And you should really know what you're building too. Like you should have like one sentence that explains it. And when you talk to people, it should resonate. And if it doesn't do that, then you're probably going in the wrong direction.
Right, right. So let's say that gives you a few dozen beta users, right?
Yeah.
But what do you do to scale? Let's say you have a couple dozen people in the app, it works, it doesn't have any bugs. Then you want to get, I don't know, 1,000 users. How do you plan on getting those users? What would the options be? I know it can be very industry specific or even app specific, right? But
Yeah.
in your case, what would you do? Well, let's say that I was your client. I wanted this app is for me. What would you suggest that I do?
We're really big on right when you start to figure out a really strong SEO strategy. And that
Okay.
doesn't necessarily mean a blog. It could be anywhere. Like another one that we really love is like YouTube. And we get like 5,500 or 5,000 views a month on our YouTube about Adalo stuff. And it's like, we haven't put a video out in 6 months and we still get
Okay.
5,000 views per month. There's a huge long tail to that like for time, that's the first thing we're doing is
Okay.
we're going to put out a bunch of content about how we calculate specific metrics that are in the app. And we're piecing that as like educational content for people that look these things up. Like, how do I calculate this type of return? What goes into this? Why should I do this? How does this work? Things like that. We're developing that content to attract those people. It's also a help desk topic. So one thing that we're expecting is people will see like financial metrics in the app and they'll say, how'd you calculate this? Like, what does this mean? So then we can show them that exact same article. And then we're repiecing all those articles as YouTube videos for a course on investing in real estate. And that's just going to be a free course that we have that, again, we like the goal is like blitz all this content out super early. And we know it's going to pay dividends like a year from now when it's been out there for 12 months and it starts getting traction. After that, the main goal is referrals and try and create some partnerships. So we know like real estate investors are kind of hard to find because they could be anyone. Like your neighbor might own a few properties. That doesn't mean that like they're a licensed real estate agent. It doesn't mean that like they go to like some mastermind group. They probably aren't on Twitter. Anyone can invest in real estate. So it's not like super easy to find them. But we know like they all have accountants that work in real estate. So why don't we target their accountants? And we know that they go through brokers and real estate agents. So like, let's target real estate agents and offer some kind of like referral program and create some program that's a little bit automated to encourage people to sell other people this and give them some kind of commission for doing that. And then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to look at paid advertising and see. But my big thing for that is like you really have to wait until you have a lot of good data on customers and like the LTV of a customer, because you need to know what you can afford to pay for customers. Like, we're not Uber where like we can just lose money for
throw
6
money
years.
Away.
It doesn't make sense. I mean, we're a bootstrap company, and the good thing for us is we don't care how long this takes. It doesn't have to make any money because it doesn't cost us any money. It's just time for us. So we're okay, which ironically is the name of the app, but we're okay if this takes like a year before it gets to like any meaningful MRR because, we're using this for ourselves and it's something we're passionate about.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. And I love the YouTube, the video strategy. And I was speaking the other day with actually a guy, we have a podcast with him, Rico. He's a SEO consultant. And we were talking about video because right now on Google search, the first organic results are video. So you'll search for something, you'll see a bunch of ads, then a bunch of videos coming from YouTube, and then links. So creating video content right now, something that Google is pushing, and then you can like ride that wave and get good rankings with video.
Yeah. Yeah,
Now
I
coming
wasn't
back,
even thinking so much about that, but yeah,
mm,
I people use YouTube a lot to learn, and I think that
mm-hmm,
that's like a great place to target people when you have a product that's kind of for like entry level people. Like we're not building like there's enterprise versions of our software that are like for big funds that do this.
right,
And so
right,
we're not targeting them, we're targeting individuals. And so they're going to be at a more basic level. And so YouTube's where they would go to learn about this. So it's kind of like the easiest place to find them.
right. Okay. So now I want to come back quickly to the agency.
Mm-hmm.
Building, I mean, you use many different softwares to build apps, but what do you think are the limitations? And that is like a topic that always comes up. Like, what are the limitations with no code and low code? Where should I start looking into code rather than no code and low code tools? What would be your answer to this very vague question?
Yeah, I think it depends if you're if you're an agency or if you're building for somebody else or if you're building for yourself. If you're building for yourself, I would absolutely first like start with something you know and understand if there's already something you know. Like one of the biggest reasons why this tool is not out today is, to be honest, is because like we tried to over engineer it in the beginning, which is hilarious because like that's exactly what we tell clients not to do. We probably made it too complicated in the beginning, and we probably could have had like a version out like 6 months ago if we had really thought about it. And yeah, we probably could have done it easier. It's just stupid. But anyway, use tools you know. If you don't know a tool, I would reach out to kind of like the broader community and say, this is my idea. What platform should I be using?
Okay.
If you're going with web, it's probably almost exclusively going to be Bubble. Like if it's a web app, I think. If it's not a web app, you can probably use like Webflow. And I'm sure I don't know anything about the Glide pages. They look awesome, but like I don't know how that works, so I can't comment a ton on them. And then if you are building something internally for a company, like I would use Glide apps. If you have to have it in the app store, then I'd probably use Adalo. In terms of limitations, though, I would say one, the worst limitation that people expect is that you can't scale. It really does not resonate with us. We've never seen anyone hit an upper limit on scaling on any no-code platform ever.
But they all mentioned that, even though I was speaking with someone earlier and I was telling them that these no-code or low-code tools are going way faster than the users. So so you'll say, maybe we'll build this app in whatever, Glide, and then in 12 months, we'll figure out what we have to do. In 6 months, Glide has launched something that will fix that thing that you were thinking about. So everybody comes with that idea, like I'm going to hit a limit pretty fast, and that never happens. It's very unusual, but in our case, it has happened just once.
We had a client who built a custom app and it never worked properly. It was too buggy and they were using some bad custom developers. They came to us as a stopgap and we started working with them in July. They had engaged another developer to build a new custom app for them that was supposed to be done in September. They are still on their Adalo app because it works. They were just like, look, I mean, they practically put the entire custom app on hold, even though it was like almost completely developed. They were like, it doesn't make sense to switch to a custom app when you have something that works. And, there's a lot of like workarounds we had to do to make this Adalo app work as we've been using it for the last year, but it works. And that's all that counts.
Yeah. Yeah. Usually, I mean, with a lot of clients, they don't care. I mean, everybody cares, right? But it's not that important, the tech stack, as long as it fixes the problem or it makes what you have in mind. People sometimes are like, what about, I mean, low code or no code or code? Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you're building in as long as you fix the pain. Ideally, hopefully, you'll use no code and low code because it will be cheaper and faster and easier to maintain. But for a lot of business owners, it's not a big issue, at least in our experience.
Yeah, and we were talking about this too before, that a lot of people say, oh, my app has to have this to be successful. And then it's like, that's actually just a nice to have. Like if you built this app without this, like push notifications, for instance, if you built an app without push notifications and it failed, would you say the app failed because it didn't have push notifications? And the answer is probably no. It's probably that the idea just wasn't good to begin with. The pricing wasn't good. The distribution wasn't good. You know, I'm sure push notifications would make it better, but that's not validation of the idea. And people need to like come back to like, there needs to be coming back to the ground type moment of these are the core features that validate the idea, that make it work. And then you just need to, you need to be using those, you need to be targeting those and not all the nice to haves.
Yeah, sometimes people come with an idea of an MVP, and then when they're speaking to you, they forget about MVP and they have their whole idea that they've been thinking for years all done. So yeah, I mean, it's important. Something that we do is build in stages or in phases, right? So let's launch fast the MVP, the most important things that you want, 4 weeks, whatever, and then get a few users, get some feedback, and then let's move on to phase 2, and then we'll build out these nice to haves that you think your users will want. It hasn't been validated yet. In a lot of cases, phase 2 ends up being completely different than what they had originally thought, because users or clients want different things.
Yep.
So, final question: where can people find more about what you've been doing? I know you're very active on Twitter. You have a portfolio on your website, right?
I think we have a few pictures up there. To be honest, we don't update our website or anything. We are an absolutely, like, when it comes to being an agency, we're just not a very good one. Not about like, we're good at building mobile apps, but we don't do anything else that like normal agencies do. Like we don't have a blog. We don't really showcase any of our client work. We have some pictures up there now, though. I think I added a few like last week. And we've got.
Is that because you got a lot of inbound? You got enough inbound that you don't have to update your website?
Yeah, we don't. Our website's on card. It's been on card for 2 years. I don't think that I didn't even have any pictures of client work on my laptop until like a week ago. And I asked my designer to share one of the things with us because we were using it for something else. I got those and I was like, I should probably put these on the website because they look nice. We don't. So you can find us at flywheel.so. That is our, corporate website or our agency website. You can get at me at, it's at ErikGoinshq at Twitter. We're also on Twitter at flywheels_studio. And you've probably seen us tweeting from Build Sell 30. That's like our other program.
Before we go, tell us a little bit about that, about Build Sell, the challenge that you've been promoting and doing.
Yeah. So I sent out a tweet like mid-December, and I was thinking it'd be really fun to have a challenge to try and get to 100 MRR in 30 days and then sell a business. And it's so to the core of like everything we've just talked about this entire, podcast. It's all about like, just break down like what are the simplest things that you can do to actually create a product and then go sell it. That's it. There's there's nothing sexy about this challenge at all. Like there's no strategy other than like get out there and sell something and build like the most basic version of an MVP that functions and then list it. You only have 30 days. You can only do so much. It's been awesome. It's kind of tough to gauge how many people are participating, but in 1 month, we have like 30.
Because everything's on Twitter.
Yeah, everything's on Twitter. And people have like very different levels of participation, which maybe we kind of expected, but like some people already had businesses and they were like, oh, I'm going to re-energize my business through Build Sell 30. Some people were like we have people starting Build Sell 30 today. It was supposed to be done like in January, but like they're starting January 5th. I can't control that. I'm very happy they want to do that too. And then we had a lot of people who did it who just had like no intention of ever selling anyway. So they were like,
Okay.
oh, I'm going to use this as an opportunity to really just like, build. But we got 3,300 people following a Twitter in a month, and we have about 600 or 700 people on Discord. It's a very cool community, and it's just dedicated to, really trying to break down a business to its most simplest parts of like MVP on technology and marketing and selling. And to be honest, also I would note the point of it isn't actually even to sell or to be acquired. It's just to get your business into a place where it could be, because so many people fall into the idea of like, if there's no end date, then you can just take forever to build your business. And there's no deadlines. There's no rush. I'll make a sale when I make a sale. So we kind of said, okay, you need to have it in a place where you can sell it in 30 days.
We are on the 25th of January, so it's about to end because it was a January challenge. What do you think are the biggest challenges? I mean, from all of these people that have been doing that, where do they get stuck?
I think one thing was some people came into it knowing exactly what they wanted to build, and some of them were right on the money. Like one guy, he actually started early because he wanted to start over like the December holidays. He already listed. The information's public if you go check out like enough stuff on Twitter about. I'm not going to mention it all, but he had 300 MRR and he's going to sell his business this month for 20 grand. Like awesome outcome, right? But he had a perfect idea. He already knew how to build it. It was something he kind of just wanted to build anyway. And he knew exactly who to go sell it to and get MRR for it. And he's very experienced in the SaaS world and knew like how to list it, etc. A lot of people, so many people came to us and said, I don't know what to build. And it's like, well, I've got a lot of ideas, but like that doesn't mean that's what you should build. So that was probably like the biggest hurdle. And we're going to try and come up with some ideas about that for the next time we do this, which will probably be in like 2 months. Then the next one is some people just like over-engineered things or built things that have like some gatekeeping. Like a lot of people use the GPT-3 from OpenAI, but you have to be approved for that. So like they built these projects on it in beta and then they want to release it publicly, but they can't because they haven't been approved. It's like, well, can't get sales if somebody doesn't let you use their software that you built this on the back of. Those are probably the biggest ones, to be honest. There was a lot of
interesting. I thought that sales would be the most challenging. Like getting your first sale would be way more challenging than coming up with an idea.
I have a feeling that most people never got to the part where they could even sell it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard to see that. Like it's just kind of a gut feeling when you see the updates, but like a lot of people are still in the tech side of things. Like they might not even have a page to take payments yet. And it's like, well, it's January 25th. If you can't take a payment, you can't get a sale. Can't get a sale, you can't get revenue. So, you can't list on microacquire with IOUs, like, so I don't know. That's my gut. So next time we're going to take a month off, and there are people doing this next month too, even though we're not going to like kind of officially host it. And we're going to try and put together like a guide for what people should do. But I think the biggest takeaway is that you need to, like when we say it's 30 days, the build part really can only be like 14 or 15 days. It can only be 2 weeks. If you're building past 2 weeks, because whatever you think is going to be,
people should be selling from day one.
Yeah.
Probably they shouldn't wait till the product is ready in order to start selling. You should start pre-selling from day one while they're building. Yeah.
You should do it next time with us.
Yes.
I mean, you could easily, you could, I know you could have a Glide app out in a day and a half. So, I mean, you guys are the experts at it. So I feel like you could easily get something out there, and then it's just about selling it.
Yeah. It'll be a cool project. Yeah, I'll try to do it.
There's a lot of work for people. Like it was time consuming. So like, I'm really grateful that people did want to take the time to do that, because like we all got other lives. I mean, I was going to try and do it, and I didn't have the time to do my own thing. Part of that's because like I'm trying to manage the whole community and stuff too. So like building Build Sell 30 was like my Build Sell 30 type thing. But yeah, I appreciate that people took the time to do it. So hopefully we see you there next time.
Yeah. I hope I'll have the time. I'll try to make some time. Yeah, it'll be interesting. Erik, thanks for joining us today. Talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. Cheers.